Hello, beautiful people. My name is Justin, and I have such a love and obsession with Fool's Blade that I became the president of the official Fool's Blade fan club on Discord. And I played well over 100 games over the course of around 2 years, and I'd love to share my class tier list with you. But before we start, hands down the most important thing that I've learned is there are way less turns in this game than you think there are, which will be extremely relevant for these rankings. In a usual full-length 4-player game, you can expect around only 12 to 15 turns per player. I've actually messaged a bunch of the previous tournament finalists, you can see them here, and their responses, which you can see right here, are in general agreement. Now to start us off, I'm actually going to go out of alphabetical order to show 3 cards that I say are poster boys. They have very simple effects and very clearly define what their tier is about. Our first one is Crash Landed Space Marine. His effect is worse than having nothing. I compare it to if someone gave you a button that when you press it, you got shot in the foot. You'd rather just not have that button. Maybe it comes up, maybe someone says, I'll give you $100 if you have a shot foot. But even then, you really shouldn't plan around that, and that was an okay trade. Now, the reason why he sucks is because turns are very, very important, so losing one is already awful. The second reason is the lose effect will often negate the advantage you got from +3 strength, or be worse, or yeah, you got a net gain of strength, but the next monster you fight you would have won anyway. So terrible card. Our next poster boy is Guy with a Gun. He's very solid, gives you the exact edge you're looking for at no risk to yourself. He's strictly beneficial, and you can just ignore the entire second half of this class. He's a permanent +2 strength. I've never seen anyone run out of bullets. I've tried to. I can't do it. In 12 to 15 turns, you have to fight against a monster you're losing by 2 or less 6 times, and then a 7th time to make it matter, and that just doesn't happen. +2 strength, very good. Our final poster boy representing S tier is Average Joe. His effect is so strong and is a testament to how much better neutral strength is to elemental strength. The reason why is elemental strength has several cards that target it, negating it, and elemental strength can fizzle out against elemental monsters of the worst type. There's also less elemental weapons, so it's harder to build around, and elemental weapons are generally weaker than neutral weapons. All that's to say, his effect is so easy to build around and actually guides you to doing something you normally should be doing with every class, which is go for neutral strength. Then on top of that, I just talked about how Guy with Gun is a good card. This guy gets +4 strength. You can usually bank on getting 3 strength early and having 4 strength later in the game, and it is mind-blowingly easy. Back into alphabetical order, we have Blacksmith, whose main strength is incredible consistency. Where other classes might strike out trying to find a blade, he's less likely to do that. Where other classes want a really strong effect, he's able to dig deeper to find those great anvil cards. And, as a bonus, if your opponent needs a specific weapon piece, like a blade, you're able to dig deeper and take them before it's even an option for the other person, ensuring that they suffer in the early game. But biggest drawback is forging past turn 2 is more of a negative, actually. It's used as a punishment. One of the best tavern cards sends people to the forge and it screws them over. So you're incredible for the first 2 turns of the game, but then after that, the reason why Average Joe or Guy with a Gun are much stronger is because those cards give you that extra oomph to take you from the forest to the cavern or the cavern to the dungeon. Blacksmith has to spend extra turns looking for that oomph, and turns matter a lot. Next class, oh no, sound the alarm. We got the best class in the game, baby. We got Blissfully Unaware Adventurer. The reason why he's the best card in the game is because not only does this card not have a cost, not only does it benefit you by re-rolling every effect you want, but it also re-rolls for other people, meaning that you're pressing down everyone else while elevating yourself. And there are enough dice effects for this to matter. A lot of them recur, like gear cards that stick around, or weapon effects. Oh my goodness. If you're able to get your hands on any part of the Gambling Man, except for the guard sucks, you're able to just walk away with the game practically then and there, like other people could just concede at that point. The sword would let you re-roll for double cards whenever you draw stuff. And the guard, no, the handle lets you roll a d8 for strength, so you're able to do that twice and become so powerful you're able to take on basically any monster. And The pommel's even better. You get to re-roll the strength of a monster with a d20 and do that twice, so you can basically just kill anything in the dungeon, even if your blade sucks. Best class card in the game. And that's not even mentioning the table politics. You have this constant looming threat of making someone lose an important battle, so there's a huge incentive for people to do you favors. Add all that together, just forget about it. This class is the best. Next, Cheater. This class is universally banned, essentially. The reason why is because his effect is just awful to play against. It means that you have to be constantly vigilant for around an hour, making sure that this person doesn't steal an extra card, because if you're able to do that, man, this is like S+++ tier. So I'm going to rate him as if he just drew one loot card at the start, and that's it. How good is that? Well, it varies. If you just get a normal loot card, it's okay. It's like C or D tier. You don't really gain an advantage from that. It doesn't help you fight monsters. But you have around a third of a chance of drawing a legendary weapon piece. And if you draw something crazy, like the Sword of the Doomsaber, or really any part of the Doomsaber, you're back at S tier. That's huge. It is such an advantage. It can't be broken, shenanigan resistant. But with the inconsistency of it, I think that averages him out to be too inconsistent to be A tier. Still good. Up next we have Coward, which I would put at the top of A tier. Yes, this is better than just having +2 strength, because on top of being able to take bigger risks, normally I wouldn't go to the Cavern unless I can defeat a 12 attack monster. That's the strongest base strength thing there. With Coward, I could do that earlier and potentially get a much stronger tempo advantage. But the main strength is that other people with cards that can sabotage someone are less likely to do it against you, because you're not going to suffer a lose effect. You're just going to get out of there. But another person, they'd get a lot more value out of those cards, which often leads to an effect similar to a Minecraft skeleton shooting another Minecraft skeleton. They'll start fighting while you've ducked out and are gearing up at the forge or getting quest cards so that you can hit that monster deck even harder next time. Great card. Not to mention the fact that the card pays for itself essentially, because you spend 2 cards, but then you immediately start generating cards again. Next, Cursed Painter. This is an oddball card because when the effect happens, it is fantastic. This swing can win games. I've seen it win games. The issue is you have to align so many stars for it to work. You have to have enough elemental weapon damage so that you can actually have something to act upon. You have to have 2 tavern cards that you wouldn't have gotten more value from just playing. You have to fight an elemental monster, which is only around a third of the deck. You have to be losing by an amount that could be made up with this card. You have to have no opponent use a card that can negate your elemental damage. And I feel like I'm forgetting something, but even just that, it's so many stars that have to align. The sheer inconsistency puts it into C tier. This is very situational and likely to hurt you because, as I said with Average Joe, you shouldn't be trying to gain elemental weapons. They're weaker than neutral. And Cursed Painter is a prime example of just making yourself very prone to being stolen from. Since you're discarding tavern cards, the cards that usually contain negation cards, people are seeing, oh, he's probably not likely to stop me stealing, and I just saw him get a bunch of cool stuff from this monster. So if I'm going to steal from someone, I'm going to steal from someone with a smaller hand that is filled with better cards. Next, we have Demonic Puppet Master. Demonic Puppet Master, I would say, is in A tier, but he's towards the bottom of A tier. The main thing holding him back is that his effect is very strong, but doesn't help him in the early game whatsoever. The effect being strong, though, is due to the fact that this cripples one person of your choice. Towards the end of the game, where people are making a lot of loot each turn, if you send to the forge, you're basically subtracting like 9 points, 15 points that they would have gotten from doing something crazy in the dungeon. And you could do that twice to somebody, just nuking their chances of winning. But if you were looking to win, you would have to be in a position where, despite not having anything early, you got in a really good position and you needed to do that to the person in second place. Not unlikely, but not as consistent as people above him. Up next, this card used to be the strongest card in the game, above S tier even, but the Circle team found that it was way too strong to permanently have a second weapon, and the only cost being not equipping gear cards, which were not nearly as impactful as they thought it would be. The new version, however, you just get to build a second weapon. You can equip gear cards all you want, but the second weapon is destroyed after. Fun fact, this is the only effect that can destroy legendary weapons. I know it doesn't say on the card, but we asked CircleToons specifically. This is the only thing that can destroy legendary weapons. But how good is forging a second temporary weapon? Well, if you get something that's 2 attack, congratulations, you've done what Guy with a Gun has done for free. But he has the huge upside of if you're able to get a lot of weapons, you're able to get so strong you can just dog walk through the dungeon. The issue is that it's slow. You have to take the time to source these weapons or get really lucky with win effects giving you anvil cards. So even by the time that you're able to get all this weapons, if someone got a lead ahead of you, they can just grind out the forest or the cavern and maybe get strong enough to go to the dungeon too. So you'd have to work through all of the loss of tempo that you had early game. When you were trying to look for this extra weapon piece, Guy with a Gun was doing what you were about to do for free. Still, being able to amass a couple weapons, you become the strongest player in the game pretty consistently. It's not that consistent to make a mess, but he's still great. He's still better than Guy with a Gun because he can get much more strength. Up next, we have Dumpster Diver. He has a really strong effect. Being able to get a good action card, gear card, anvil card is very strong and happens consistently every game. The issue is that you have to wait for someone to discard that card, which usually happens middle of the game. So, like Double Blade Berserker, he suffers from not so good of an early start, which is very impactful. And like Cursed Painter, because you're spending 2 tavern cards to do this, and everybody just saw you get a really good card, you make yourself very prone to getting stolen from. Altogether, C tier. Up next, we have Elementalist, which is average Joe, but worse in every single way. Lower max damage, harder to build around, elemental weapons are generally weaker, elemental weapons get targeted by other cards that average Joe just doesn't get targeted with neutral strength. But free strength is free strength. This is great. It's not as good as Guy with a Gun, who has to pay no condition, doesn't have to build around a worse damage type, but still A tier. Up next, we have Fisherman. Fisherman goes into F tier. The main reason is because 3 tavern cards you can do so much with. It's very, very, very rare that 1 loot card will ever be worth that. And on top of that, that's enough to put him in F or D tier for me. But what cements him is that someone can play a negate card on this, or it was my idea after all, which means you discarded 3 tavern cards for your opponent to draw loot. And oh my god, that's worse than the time that I went to the car dealership and I stubbed my toe. And by stub my toe, I mean that I fell into this big hole, and the dealership owner promptly came out and covered the edges of it in oil so I couldn't go out. So then he took a big pole, and he started poking me with it, and I tried to grab that to get out, but he also covered that in oil. And I had to just stay there for 3 days, subsisting off nothing but the almonds that his son would throw at me. And eventually I was able to actually make myself almond claw hands so that I could claw my way out of the tungsten hole that I'd been put into. And when I finally got to the top, I realized, wait a minute, that doesn't make a lot of sense for a car dealership guy to bring his son to work. And that's when I realized none of this was real. I woke up. I was happy that was a dream and it was over, but when I woke up, I saw my Fool's Blade box and I saw Fisherman in it, and it made me sad because this class sucks. Up next, we have a tabletop simulator exclusive, Florbi. His deal is that if you get a vial, you get +2 strength, like Guy with a Gun. But also, you can break the vials to get +5 strength and 1 burst. If you get multiple vials, you're chilling. This is amazing. But vials, there's only 4 of them in the entire quest deck. And the quest deck is 59 cards big if you have the Screaming Forest expansion. This means that your chances of drawing a vial is only 6.7%. Don't laugh. It's too rare for him to really work out. Oftentimes he'll hurt you because you want to go to the quest deck to have your class do something, and then you can get cursed and not have a plan to do something about it. And there's some really nasty curses in this game that I'm going to make another tier list about. D tier. Up next, we have Monster in Disguise. This card actually had a temporary change where you could use the ability infinitely, but then I dueled someone into the Shadow Realm by giving a monster they were fighting plus 12 attack in one turn, and it got reverted back so you can only use it once per turn. That's still amazing, because this card causes fear! The fear that you want to go into the forest, you normally could, but now you gotta get you just gotta work a little bit harder, get that +2 more strength. Oh, if you want to go from the forest to the cavern, you gotta work a little bit harder. Same thing for the dungeon, you get the gist. The tempo that other players lose, the fear factor that other players have, the table politics that you get from the card is what makes it so great. A tier. Next, this card, I was an early hater on. A lot of people put it in S, but I put it into B, and I convinced them. The reason why I convinced them is you could get caught up in the grand, oh my gosh, you could get 8 strength and just become unstoppable. But it doesn't do anything for you early game because you don't have monsters yet. And about a third of the monsters are elemental, and a little over a third of those are plant. So you're looking at around a 1 in a 9 chance every combat to actually trigger this. It is possible. I did have a match recently where I got +8 strength, and it's amazing. But the lack of consistency and the huge target you put in your back, because everyone doesn't want you to actually beat a plant monster when you find it, make this class bottom of B. Up next, we have the most friendly class in the game. Oh, he's kissing you. He's Pal-adin. He helps other people with table politics. There's a very rare effect. The only other person who can do that is Blissfully Unaware Adventurer by helping your homie with dice rolls. That is a very strong incentive for other players. It's the best way to make friends, which is the goal of table politics, really. But you do have to have some stars aligned. People have to go questing, not have curse protection, because they're going to be sticked with that curse. And then you have to, during their timer, fight a monster where you were losing by 3. It's not that hard to align, but it's nowhere near guaranteed. And you would also have to have it so that you're not just throwing the game by getting rid of a curse that was other people's only chance at beating this person. For that reason, he's not that strong, but he's the strongest in C tier. I would put Dumpster Diver above him, but because of the being's prone to stealing and lack of table politics, Dumpster Diver is below. Speaking of slightly worse than Pal-adin, we have PickPocket, the last card in C tier. The reason why he's slightly worse is because, although he does have the table politic aspect of constantly having the threat of stealing from people, the cost is significant and means that right after you provoke someone, you make yourself prone to being stolen from. They know what you have, they know that you have less tavern cards to be able to block it with. It's like the most retaliation-prone card in the game. That being said, constantly being able to steal people is a great deterrent, and it's nice to steal in this game. Next, we have Psychic, who's S tier only because you can use the effect on the Tavern deck. Tavern cards vary so wildly in strength, from practically doing nothing to deciding the game. So being able to change your fate even once in a game is well worth the cost of discarding a card to do this. And since it's any card, it's pretty reasonable to be able to do this every single turn. I highly recommend that, and especially when most of the great tavern cards will be gaining you positional advantage, tempo, or cards to replenish the effect. Add to this, the person right after you is getting terrible cards, or even if they get good cards, you know exactly what they have and can play around it. Fantastic card, and if you have extra, using it on the monster deck ain't bad too. Next is Rude Dude, competing for the very worst card in the game. He costs way too much for what he does, doesn't provide you anything early, but you couldn't kind of argue for table politics, even though it hurts you more than you could hurt someone else with this effect. And meat and potatoes and boots of season kicking can be worth it, not often. Up next we have Sketchy Salesman, which is an affirmed D tier because he doesn't give you anything early game, and then you have to fight a monster, hope it gives you loot, just to be able to use this class ability. Then you have to not have a loot that's worth too much, because that's helping your opponent too much, and your opponent has to have a gear card that's worth using this effect, and a lot of gear cards aren't so good. Then, late game, you don't even want to use this ability because we're about to count the points, so giving loot is just not a good idea. Terrible early game, terrible late game, something might happen in the middle. That's enough to keep him out of F, but definitely D. Up next, we have the one who always gets lost, which is my favorite card in the game. Not the best card, but certainly my favorite. The reason why is because those 2 quest cards that you draw extra, so 3 total, are guaranteed not to be curses, so you have a lot of flexibility, a lot of intimidation with other people. They don't know what those are, so they're going to take some time to gear up a little bit more for the forest, etc. You have like a monster in disguise type effect. But the second part you can largely ignore. It's actually more of a debuff, because if you want to go questing, you're going to be sent somewhere else, and usually that's not part of your game plan, or you weren't ready to go monster hunting. But man, he does his job well, and he's so darn fun. You get a different variety of cards every single time you play him. I can never get enough. Next, we have the only guy who came prepared, which doesn't just put you 1 turn ahead, maybe a little more with like Ice Cream Sandwiches class does. He puts you 3 turns ahead because you have 3 extra anvil cards gifted to you. This means you could theoretically luck out into a goated weapon from the start and just start killing the cavern. But more often you're able to actually just turn 1 forest, or most optimally, you go to the forge again and swap out some of your weaker stuff for a super weapon. But the extra cards you have is ridiculous, even though this guy doesn't have a stronger height he can reach later in the game because he doesn't add extra strength. The snowballing early is just big enough to get him to S. Up next, we have the Witch, who is a whole tier lower than Dumpster Diver despite being very similar because it lacks so much consistency. It doesn't work on anvil cards, doesn't work on gear cards, doesn't work on cards other people played. You have to dig around in the quest or get lucky with your first card to actually find something you can use this ability with. And even if that happens, you have the problem where you're really open to theft. You have a small hand with good cards in it. Oh, I've seen so many people, they want to use the effects, so they just go questing a lot. They get cursed, they lose. Don't go questing that much if you don't have protection. It will ruin games. There's a couple curses that just destroy you. Not to mention, Witch players will say they popped off if they found Fireball, which gives you only 1 more strength than Guy with a Gun does for no cost. Next, we have Village Menace, who is all the way in F tier, our last F tier card. He's psychic, but so much worse, because he can't be used in the tavern. He costs double the cards. It has to be tavern cards. And then when you look at something and you don't like your result, like, I can't beat this monster, send him to the bottom, you don't know what the next monster is. You could also just completely whiff on that too. Same thing goes for questing. If you see a curse, you put it down there, go questing, there could be another curse there. I've seen often, I tried to play this guy, I saw a monster, and then I thought, oh wow, well, if I had 2 tavern cards, I could have done some skullduggery to prepare for this, but alas, it costs way too much, and the information is something, it's just negligible. I'll mention that Village Menace can cycle through some bad forge cards before it goes in there, which is helpful, but not as helpful as 2 tavern cards would be, and also helps your opponents. Next, we have Warlock. Warlock is very solidly an A tier, not so much because of the +2 strength, but because of curse protection. It's not at all uncommon to see death by curse in any level of play. And even if you don't go questing, monsters will give you effects that will draw you quest cards. Not uncommon to get cursed that way. I won't slap the +2 strength though. That is definitely nice. I recommend going to the quest a couple times. Remember, you only have 12 to 15 turns. But even if you don't find curses that way, getting action and gear cards is what everyone was hoping for when they went questing. So the worst you're getting is a mediocre card. Great card, not insane. Guy with a Gun does similar strength benefit without spending any turn. It's worth noting for Warlock and for our last card, Witch Hunter, that the quest deck is a means to an end, and this means the great players won't visit there much, if at all, during their games, which is a shame because it's such a fun deck. We actually fixed this in the Community Edition. Shout out to Purple Blaze and Frishowo, they're the 2 who mainly headed that, and also everyone in the Fool's Blade Discord who made great cards about that made the quest deck way better. Back onto the base game though, Witch Hunter is still good even in those matches because you'll still have the 1 card that you got at the very start of the game or from win effects. It's just that It struggles with consistency. Very often it's you get the same strength as guy with a gun, but a third of the time, and you don't get to decide when. You actually encourage people not to go questing, which is what they should be doing anyway. And there you have my class tier list for Fool's Blade. Thank you so much for your time. I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Just to clarify, to the left means better, to the right means worse. Coward is the best of A tier, Demonic Puppet Master is the worst. If you have any gripes with where I put cards, want to see something be tweaked, come talk to me about it. I love it so much that I made a Fool's Blade fan club all about talking about this stuff. If you'd like to join, there'll be a link in the description. And hey, while you're there, we got tournaments we're running all the time. We have the community edition I think you'd love to try out. Shout out to Fisherman and Purple for making that. It solves basically every gripe I've had with Fool's Blade, and that's saying a lot because the base game is already fantastic. CircleToons did a great job making you feel like a scrappy adventurer, pulling skullduggery with your friends and finding all these cool trinkets and loot. I love this game so much, and I hope I've instilled a little bit of that passion in you, because man, I love seeing this community grow. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.